So doesn't it make sense that we all see things differently? And one of the beautiful benefits of human design is that it can allow you to recognize that the things that are happening in your life do not have to be perceived the same way by everyone else in order for you to validate your perception and your existence. You do not have to explain, justify, rationalize, get any kind of anything from anybody else to be at home in your own authority. And this is one of the things that we need to attach to, because if we can attach to the concept that each of us is deserving to have the decisions that we make be valid without being questioned or challenged by other people in our lives, if we can honor ourselves as a sovereign being, as somebody who can make decisions for ourselves, as somebody who doesn't need other people to give the approval or give the awareness that, oh yes, good boy, good girl. No more of that. We need to get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. So I don't know if any of that's resonating with you guys, but this is where I'm at in my process. You've probably already read what's on the slide. You can see that currently I'm in Crestone, Colorado for a few weeks, and then I'll be somewhere else. The Human Design Foundations you are embarking with me on today is the first step, living your design. I'm also an author of a lot of different articles, and an analyst, and a career consultant. I bring all of this knowledge into my experience with you, not from a place of wanting to make it complex, but from wanting to make it deeper and richer. So what we're doing is, in this workshop is going to help you focus on what the centers are. Like, what do they actually do? What are their functions? When they're not colored in, when they're white, what does it mean? When they're defined, when they're colored in, what does it mean? In your design, like, how does it show up? Now, at this level, we're looking at broad strokes, but when we look into each of your charts, if you decide to stay a little bit longer in the classes, we can usually have some time to go, like I mentioned, to go into the actual experience of dissecting and aligning your awareness to the actual expression of what your chart is saying. What is your conditioning receptors in the openness and the undefined centers? Where are the gates that are aligning your mind to think that that is what reality is, and that's what is important? Because what tends to happen is we usually take for granted or ignore our authority. We've been trained out of it into somebody else's authority. It began at birth. Our mother and father knew what was best for us, and so they guided us into what they thought was best, telling us what to do rather than asking, rather than aligning us to how we're designed to be treated. Well-meaning parents, and yet there it is. Wanting to align to your authority has to be one of the things that you really, really, really are committed to. Because if you're not, if you're still looking for validation and justification and rationalization, you will find it here in design. You will find it, and you may be able to explain away challenges and still not align to your authority. So I want to help you make that commitment that this is the time for you to awaken up to your natural gifts, talents, abundance of being able to align to your path and purpose. And the strategy that you have as a being is going to be, yes, a general strategy. However, there are specific nuances that if we focus in on what you are, centers, colored in, defined, and be aware of what you are not, openness, where there is receptivity and learning from the outside world, it's going to help you recognize what you're here for, who you're here for. We're going to explore the types. Type is a constant throughout this class, but we're going to, at the end, have a couple of classes just on energy types and non-energy types, and we'll explain more about what that is. I hope to provide for you a lot of practical information, examples from your charts in your lives. That's what's really enriching for me and for everyone in the group. There's a lot of opportunity for sharing. You absolutely do not have to share. We don't have enough time to cover each of the gates. We might focus on some of them or others because maybe a lot of people in the group have it or whatever. I'm not going to be able to cover all the channels or the profiles in depth. There's no underlying theory or background in a deep way. That's coming, all of this stuff is coming in the next couple classes if you choose to continue, okay? When you're looking at why you would want to do human design, what it can do for you is it awakens you to align to yourself, the aligned self, the true self, the self that is unique and special because it is who you are. It gives you permission to be that aligned self and have compassion, self-compassion for your journey and for others. It helps you make a decision that points you in the correct direction. A lot of times it's physically even. Where are you in space? Who do you connect with? Who do you touch? Who touches you? And not even just physical, the spoken word, hearing my voice, having your life purpose be unlocked and allowed to unfold is a potential when you study this material. It's a potential. What it can do is it moves us in harmony and in the flow of our own lives. It helps you find your right place and right people and opportunities. And I say right because I don't believe that anything is wrong. It is either aligned or misaligned. And in the misalignment, bitterness for me, frustration for the generator, those show you. It's like the bumps on the side of the road when you're driving down the highway. I don't know if they have it over in Australia, Ryan and Dimitri, but there's these lines on the side of the road that if you are not paying attention, there's bumps in the middle, right, from the reflectors, and there's these lines that will tell you, I'm going off the side of the road. Eventually you start to hit some gravel and maybe, hit a guardrail or something like that. But the recognition of discomfort in the body is something that if you can allow yourself to feel it rather than stuffing it aside or, dulling it with any kind of anything. TV is a drug. Any kind of stimulants, any kind of anything that gets you out of touch with your body is a way of avoiding the presence of life force energy within you right now. And that life force, that spirit that runs within you can either show up as success or bitterness. It can show up as satisfaction or frustration. It can show up in a way that helps you be aligned, recognize that you're aligned, or that you're misaligned. You do have the bumpy roads in Australia. Good. I'm glad you recognize that. Yeah, that's what it is. That's all it is. So it's not wrong or bad. It's actually a blessing to be able to be recognizing that you are not in communion with spirit in a way that you're not expressing the natural essence of you in that moment. If you're experiencing the anger, even rage, frustration, bitterness, disappointment. So this experiment, by entering into this experiment and committing to yourself and, releasing the cords of connection with people who tell you what to do and expect you to be a certain way because that's the way that you've always been and they're more happy. So they're comfortable with the way that you are. Maybe they're not happy. Maybe they just, they like you the way they are, that you are. This is not easy, this experiment. It is a challenge. You may need to let go of people that have been in your life that are family, that will not allow you to align to your own authority. So it's a risk. It takes a great amount of courage. And what it does, this human design experiment, is it facilitates the correct alignment of frequency. All of us are moving particles, right? We're all vibrating. We all have sound. There's a frequency that we can feel when we're connected with someone else. And if you're aligned with your frequency, your cognition is going to be correct, work properly. It's going to perform in the unique, specialized way that you are designed to experience in this life so that you can actually see correctly, the way that you're designed to see. So all of this, particularly for you projectors, it's about perception and seeing, because without the seeing, we cannot have recognition. Without the recognition, we cannot recognize. Mutual recognition between two parties leads to success of interaction. Is this person right for me? Can I provide what they need? Or is it someone that I need to allow to move on and let go? It helps us, human design, transform the conditioning that we've experienced throughout our lifetime into an immense amount of wisdom. So please don't, when you come to this experiment, don't feel like there's something wrong, bad, broken. I know it may be easy for me to say this now, but I remember coming to the experiment and feeling there's something absolutely terribly wrong with me. Constantly trying to fix myself throughout my life, going, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Oh, find human design? Lots of open centers. That's what's wrong with me. And that is absolutely not true. The openness is where we have an immense amount of ability to see and experience life in a flexible way. This is where we take in the other. This is where we have the openness of learning about the life experience, flexible, open, receiving, receptive, wisdom. Not bad, not wrong, even though we are going to express or help you learn about each of these centers as far as what the experience may be if you're using those open centers to make decisions. So those decisions that are made in the openness oftentimes come with a lot of pain. Depending on what center it is, that's going to show us the kinds of pain. I'm going to show you what those are so that you can recognize it. And they're not bad. Nothing's wrong, broken, or missing. You are in alignment perfectly. Because you're here right now, you have a key to be able to unlock your wisdom potential in this lifetime. So I'm going to pause there and see if there's any comments, questions, concerns from anybody in the group before I move on into the teaching part. I've been teaching, just sharing, but the rest of the presentation. So anybody feel like raising your hand, chat, or just unmute, feel free to talk. Okay. As we go through this program, you're going to find that there's a lot of potential resources. And here is an example. These are some links. You do not have to click any of the links in my presentations, okay? They're just there for additional information. If you're like somebody who's a first line in a profile, loves the details. Okay, so the Dropbox link, yeah, I haven't added you into the group yet, or the file folder yet, Ryan, but here is the presentation. I will send it again into the chat so that you have the ability to download it. And then you can, click on the links. So here, I'm going to go over an introduction to the basic concepts of living your design. No worries, Julie Wills, take care. We'll see you later. So the focus of this Living Your Design Awakening experience is knowing how you personally are affected by your design, meaning what is the imprint that creates the life force energy within you or the receptivity that within you, and how does that affect who you think you are and who you be. Like there's so much more to you than just the conscious awareness that you think you have about yourself. What we're looking at also in this course is how other people are going to affect you, how you affect others. And this is shown easily by seeing what's defined, colored in, and what's undefined, open. So anywhere you see white in the chart, even these, they look like lines, we call them channels that are connecting up the centers, the energy hubs, these vortexes of energy that actually have a function within the body, a feeling, a sensation within the body. You're going to be able to uncover how the interplay works between defined and undefined in a healthy and an unhealthy way. And that's the biggest focus. And the reason for this is so that you can start to see what your design is and how to live it. Now, the type, strategy, and authority, the big keys of how you make a decision, are going to help you do that if you can process and know how to use it. And we're going to go over that as well. But the reason that we give you centers, functions as a big, big, big part of this course is that it helps you recognize why. And I don't know about you, but I hate being told what to do. I need to know why. Like, why is this important? Why is this valid? Why is this helpful? The functions, the understanding of the centers are everything. If you get the centers, you start to recognize, oh, if I get the center, then, the connection between the center, you start to recognize what that can do. So it's the foundation, it's the core of what we need to teach you in this Living Your Design. So again, please do read your book before class if you can. We're also going to go into, like I mentioned, the authority, how each of the authorities work. We're going to focus specifically on those of you in this course, on your authority, and I will make brief mention to the other ones because this is a customized course that's specifically how you live your design. So we want to make sure that all of our focus and attention is on the people who are in the course and not people outside of it. Well, we'll make brief conversation, especially if you've got, let's say, somebody in your life who is a mental projector, and we don't have any mental projectors in the group. We will have a little discussion, but I want to focus it on when, how to follow yours and why you experiment, which I've been talking to a little bit today. So I want you to pause here and ponder. What if? What if you were your own authority? Do you remember when you were a child growing up and you were told what to do and you resisted? You got angry or frustrated or bitter and you couldn't wait to get out of that house. I know I moved out when I was 15. I got emancipated legally. My mom signed the paper and I went off into the mainland, was living in Hawaii. It only took me about 1.5 years to come back or so. But then I rented on my own. The point is that if you were your own authority, rather than taking on what other people have told you you should be, it's right for you, it makes money, go this way instead of being that. Artist as an example, writer as an example, because the parents are very well-meaning and they want what's best for you, and they know from their own experience perhaps, seeing that out in the world, that it can be challenging sometimes to be these things. Or maybe they wanted you to follow in their footsteps. But what if you were your own authority from childhood? Can you imagine how different your life would be? And I'm not bringing this up lightly. I'm bringing this up because there is a deep mourning that we all need to go through. When we're at the beginning of this experience, we need to mourn the child within us that wasn't honored and respected for who we were, who we are. And that deconditioning process, a big part of this, is coming to self-acceptance, self-love, compassion, and forgiveness of them. If you are blaming other people for you not being, where you wanted to be, or yourself, if you are blaming yourself and thinking that there's a lack or something wrong, or why can't life be the way that I want it to be. If we can source into that grief, that pain of not being honored and respected for ourselves, and release the chemical memories, because memory is stored in the body, it's stored in our water. If we can start to intake fresh, clean spring water, living spring water if possible, if you can get it from Mama Earth or you get it from a bottle, that water has energy, it has information. And as you move through this process, there is a lot of, we call it in design shattering, where there's these awarenesses and recognitions that happen in the mind that can completely, it feels like you're dying sometimes. It feels like, particularly for us emotional people who are already up and down, if you're allowing yourself to feel these emotions and embody the spirit, it's energy and movement. And if you've been conditioned from childhood to think that you need to be something else in order for other people to love you so that you can feel self-love, there's a lot of wounding there. So this is the question I want to have you contemplate this week. What would it be like if you were your own authority? You can think about the past, you can think about the future. You could think about right now what's actually happening with your relationships, the people that are most important to you, that you are with day in, day out, perhaps your spouse, perhaps your children, perhaps your coworkers. But what would life be like if you were your own authority? And I want you to source into that. Allow yourself to grieve if it comes up. Doesn't have to. It might come up later, years later. Hi. And still coming up for me 6 years later. But if you can align to feeling those feelings and allowing it to be what it is, that movement of energy through you is cleansing. And that movement of energy through you can help release some of the conditioning, the patterns of conditioning that you are still perhaps operating on. And now I'm talking to all my friends who are still in this experiment, been in it for a year or 2 or 3. It's still moving. So what would it be like if you were your own authority? What would it be like? And I want you to pause there after you've had some time for grieving and feel the hope within that it's not too late, because it's never too late, because you have right now. Right now is the precious moment that has been given to us because we exist. And in this moment, we can be our own authority. We can align to what's natural and correct and in vibratory harmony with the totality of the universe. We can. So this is the movement between pain and suffering and loss, perhaps, whatever the mind thinks that is wrong or broken or lacking or missing, because it's not. It's actually not. There is a movement of energy that swells and rises and crests like the orchestra that plays this beautiful music, and you are soaring. You are soaring because that's what life is. It's not static. We can never stay at this. Everyone wants to stay at this happy place. Oh, how things go? Oh, they're going great, No. Things go down, things come up. And if we're aligned to our authority, whatever that authority happens to be, we get what we get, and it's all okay. You can be in the throes of the pain that what life is offering you right now and still be okay, meaning still be attached to or aligned to the sensation of presence, of aliveness in your body. Whether that be expressing as frustration or bitterness, or whether that be expressing as success or satisfaction. Aligning with your own authority helps you to move in totality with who you are and who others are. So when we go into this living your design experience, the generator, projector, reflector, and manifester, all of these 4 types operate completely differently from each other, sometimes just diametrically opposed. And I'm going to explain to you how that is, what it's like to be each type, the strategy, and how to use it, and how to interact with each other in a way that honors and respects our uniqueness. Okay, that's a really big part of this course too. We're going to use, like I mentioned, the student manual, Living Your Design. If you have not gotten this book yet, it's okay. You still have time. You can get that one, same price as this one, however. Just saying, it's on Amazon if you want it. We're going to use live example charts, discussion of your real life experiences, sharing of insights and practical tips and tricks for living your design. I'm going to do my best to attempt to transmit to you what you need to know to experiment with this in alignment with yourself. And I'm going to share with you other resources as appropriate. As an example, like the Human Design Science of Differentiation book is a great one if you want, something solid, lots of information to look up all the people in your life. There's also going to be more resources, articles, videos, and paths for further study. If you want to ask, please feel free and welcome towards the end of class about continuing. In this experience, the Living Your Design Awakening experience, it does not have a prerequisite. You can come into this brand new. However, I do recommend, if you are brand new, that you either go on to mybodygraph.com, which is a free site. You can listen to Ra, the founder, messenger of the Human Design System, share with you the basics of your type, strategy, and authority. You need at least that before we enter into this experience. If you want some guidance, I have created an overview reading. This is the first time I've done this, but it's a group overview reading So at least need a couple people to make it happen, but it's a lot less than the one-on-ones that I usually do, so that together we can make sure that you have a solid foundation going into this experience. And I want you again to read the Living Your Design Student Manual. So if it's your serendipity, if it happens to you that you can live out your design with awareness, you get to see the wonder of what it is to be awake. Awake to you. Awake to how you perceive the world. Awake to how you make decisions about it. Awake to how you operate in alignment or not. And only you are going to know if you're operating in alignment or not. This is not about judgment or making anybody better or worse or wrong or right. Most of the people in this life are not going to come across this experiment, and they're not going to have the kind of commitment that perhaps you do because you're here. So if it's your serendipity, and in fact, that's a great word. Serendipity is what starts to happen if you are aligned to your path and purpose. Now you start to see magic happen, literally magic happen in your life where, you know, you're following the body. And this is a big point that I personally have experienced over the last couple of years, since maybe about 3 years in. It's that you're following your body. You're following the feeling, for me, emotional feeling. For maybe a splenic person like Rose, the sensation, the tingles, the smell, the taste, the touch, whatever it is that it happens to be for you in your design. There are signposts, not just the broad signposts of success and bitterness or frustration and satisfaction, but signposts your body gives you to help align you on your path. So aligning to that rather than what your mind thinks should or should not happen means you're starting to shift gears into following the body. And the body knows. Your mind doesn't know. And the reason the mind doesn't know is because it's not all there. And that's a funny way to say it, but it's really not all there. Your mind is not all there. And I'll show you why. Look at my chart. So what we're looking at is conscious activations on one side, and I'll go into it more in the presentation. This is about a third of who you are. We call it who you think you are, what you're consciously identified with. This is showing us the programming, the imprint of what your mind is processing about all the time. Okay? The conscious activations are showing us what you're potentially aware of, right? And that is the moment of your birth. Now, on the unconscious side, we're looking at design activations where it is a body imprint. And that's another third of your design. It's unconscious, meaning it's not something that you are consciously aware of, nor are you ever going to be consciously aware of until it surfaces, until it's expressed as life force, until it's actually in your present reality. But it's always moving under the surface, just like this red, think of like blood cells underneath the surface of your skin. That is your body imprint. So all of us are going to have a different, unique imprint. Now that I said that's a third, that's a third. You are not one or the other. That's the illusion. Your mind thinks that it is this. When you come to design particularly and you haven't studied, you haven't experimented yet, all you're aware of is this. You don't necessarily know about the unconscious until somebody tells you about it. You go, oh yeah, I can recognize that. Or, oh yeah, that does happen. People think that I am seductive. People think that I'm intentionally seducing them, when in fact, it's just part of how I move. My body is seductive. My mind thinks, oh man, I can't make a mistake. In a conditioned place, I'm like, oh God, I don't want to do that because I might make a mistake. You know, fear of my own decision-making process of making mistakes, because every time I would make a decision, I'd see failure as my perception of what happened. So one third, the quantum of what we are is seen in the body graph. The connection of the two, red and black, coming together helps us be aware of the energies that are moving within us that are part of what we are here to broadcast or be in this life. The colored in centers show us our uniqueness.